Hi, how are you, Danielle?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for taking a little time to chat with us today. We are doing a little mini video series interviewing each of the six artists who are involved in the 2020 Realism Show.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
we're happy to have this chance to chat with you. So you had a really exciting opportunity at the end. I think it was the end of 2019. Is that right?
Yep, around September.
Around September 2019, where you were a contestant on a show called Landscape Artist of the Year Canada.
Yeah, that's correct.
That was pretty exciting. And it aired earlier this year, and Karen and Al and I all really enjoyed watching you compete on that show. So that was really, really fun. What was the experience like being in a painting competition and filmed?
Well, it was, I thought it was going to be really scary actually because you have limited time, of course. You only have 4 hours to compete. Um, but when I did the first section,
Yep.
as soon as they picked us up at like 10 to 6 in the morning or something like that, or 10 to 5. It was really early anyways.
Yeah.
And they loaded me and this gal from Vancouver in a van, and we headed out. We had no idea where we were going. We had no idea of anything actually. So we headed out, and as we're driving in the dark, and I see a sign for Barrie, and I thought, yes, at least we're not painting like the CN Tower or something like that, right? So we're going out to some area where I feel more comfortable with. So we went out there, and they mic'd us, and they did all that stuff, and they did interviews all during the day, and then as we were painting, they came and talked to us as well.
Yep.
It was very intense. There were 6 people. They were all awesome, and they were all various styles of painting, right? And I was the only one that did realism. There were some that did like the group of 7 sort of style and all that kind of stuff. So that was challenging. But when they put us in our location, I was at the end pod, and there was a tree in front of my pod, and it was maybe 10 feet in front of the pod, but it was like dead center. And there was this big trunk going through my area. Like there was a barn that they wanted us to paint. There's this big trunk, and I'm like, what? In my head, right? So anyways, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, how am I going to paint this? And the barn was maybe 20, 30 feet away, and basically you saw the barn, and you really didn't, you saw a little bit of greenery behind, but it was basically a building. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to paint that. So
no, that's not really your style. Sometimes you have a barn or a building
yeah,
incorporated into the landscape, but when I think of your work, I think of the trees and the sky and the fields, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I looked to the side, and I saw this beautiful rolling hills landscape, hints of color, because it was in September, so the color was starting to come out. And I said to my story girl, I called her over and I said, can I paint that? And she's like, well, why do you want to paint that? And I'm like, why not? I said, look at how beautiful that is. I said, I want to challenge myself. And then I was like, give your head a shake. Not that this isn't a challenge enough. I only have 4 hours. But I said, I want to see if I can get that atmosphere and the depth, and I want to try to do this. So she's like, okay. So off she went. And no sooner did she agree, the lighting guys put up this great big white screen that was like 10 feet square, totally blocking the view. I'm like, my God. So I call her over again. I said to her, do you think you can find out when these guys are going to remove this screen? And she goes, okay, just a minute. So she goes over and she said, so what do you think, guys? Like, are you going to have this screen the whole time or whatever? And they're like, no, it won't be the whole time. We'll remove it, but we don't know when. So she came back to me and said, okay, you can paint that if you want. They are going to remove the screen. It's up to you, but you might not have 4 hours. So she's like, either you paint that with the limited time, even more of a limit, or you paint what's ahead of you or whatever. But she said, it's up to you. And I'm like, okay. So in my head, I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm painting it.
Yeah.
So luckily for me, they took the screen down about 5 minutes before we started.
Thank goodness.
I know. So I had 4 hours.
That's good. That's good. Had you done many paintings in a 4-hour time frame before this?
Well, as soon as I applied, I just got this gut feeling like, oh my God, what did you do? They're gonna call you. So I said to myself, I said, I got to get going. So every day I went out and I painted, and I gave myself a time limit. And I painted some in 2 hours, I painted some in 3, some in 5. So every day I would go out and I'd practice, because I thought, I have to be able to do this. I don't want to look like an idiot in front of the whole wide world, right?
Yeah. So did you develop any kind of special strategies in terms of trying to paint? Because I know normally you work for much longer than that. So did you adjust your approach?
No, not really. I still did a Brunei, but I did not a very detailed one like I would do if I was working on something in the studio, for example.
When you say that, you mean like an underpainting in the
An underpainting, yeah. So I put everything where I wanted it to be, and I made sure that the composition was what I wanted and things. And then I just started painting. Well, we had no time. But when I go to do plein air events, when I go to plein air every week and that with my group, that's what I do. I do a Brunei to a certain extent, just to put landmarks of where I want stuff, and I just go for it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good for you. It was pretty amazing. And like I say, to be the only high realism artist taking on this immense challenge of 4 hours, we were really impressed, and it was so much fun to watch you compete in that show.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So did you learn anything about, the reality of reality television? Was it?
Yeah. One thing that I guess surprised me, I never thought about it, and I was okay for the first episode because I kind of looked to the side. When I did the last episode, because I moved to the finals, I painted something ahead of me, and there were crew members everywhere. So you'd think, okay, I'm going to paint that tree, and then you'd look, and there would be like 3 people with cameras and stuff standing in front of it, and I'm like, oh my God. And so yeah, that was challenging because there was distractions everywhere,
Yeah, just kind of that whole hustle and bustle of the show being produced around you.
Oh yeah, and they're flinging questions at you right, left, and center. So you're like trying to paint, and you're answering questions, and then they'd come onto the platform and they'd talk to you while you're painting, and so you have to answer questions and try to keep working.
Yeah.
So
that's hard. Well, good for you. That was very exciting. So
it was fun.
We're thrilled with that. Yeah.